Hi folks, Van Prepper here with the most important Safe Act and gun news update that I have ever done. Now I've done a lot of videos and I've been very proud of them, but this one is far and away the most important video. I'm not saying what I'm about to say for hyperbole or effect or to try and get people riled up. I am simply reporting the facts. And the facts are that gun confiscation has begun in New York State under the SAFE Act. Now, I knew about this about a week and a half ago. I found out through somebody, I'm not going to, well, actually, I will tell the source. George Curbelo, the head of the New York Revolution Group, actually contacted me with some information, and he has been gathering information. We were going to come with this video in a little bit. We just want to make sure we had our T's crossed and our I's dotted, and some new things have come out. This is not an isolated incident. We knew of a couple of incidents, and that's why we were kind of trying to put these together, but another one came out today, and this is gun confiscation. It is official under the SAFE Act is taking place in New York State. And the case that we found out about today, that I found out about today, is a case of a guy on the, let me see if I want to make sure I get this right, NewYorkFirearms.com forum. And this guy had police come to his house. He had filled out went to register his assault rifle, and he had police come to his house. They said they wanted to check the serial number on his rifle, and come to find out they weren't there to check on the serial number of his rifle at all. They told him he had a misdemeanor possession charge from 15 years ago, and they were taking every gun that he had. They confiscated everything this guy had even though he was lawfully allowed to have these. There was nothing that bars him from having these. He's not a danger to anybody. They took a 15-year-old misdemeanor possession charge and used that as a justification under the SAFE Act to take everything this guy had. Now, another thing that they're doing, there's a provision under the SAFE Act that makes it renders the HIPAA laws, which are the protections of privacy when you're treated for mental illness or get some kind of counseling or go to see a doctor, those are rendered null and void under the SAFE Act, because not only are doctors not prohibited from doing this, they are now, doctors, therapists, whatever, are almost forced into it. They are required to report things. And the other case I know about, I am not going to talk about, because George Curbelo is much more familiar with this than me, and he can speak to it better than I can. He will talk to you about the specifics of a case out of Delaware County. And I can tell you right now that this is a legitimate, there's no BS. This isn't for effect. If YouTube is not going to help this news get out. Most news sources are not going to help this news to get out. I need everybody who sees this video to share the video, to put it anywhere you can think to put it. And we also need to tell our friends and neighbors that, for all those who say they're not looking to take your guns, they certainly are looking to take your guns. The SAFE Act, all these things are just a means. When you make these concessions for mental health things, they will find anything in your past, and that's what they're doing. They are looking, once they find out you have guns, which if you register, they know you have guns, they're going to look into anything in your past to come up with any excuse they can to take those guns away. And that's not going to be just for the people who are registering. Eventually that's going to spread, be much more spread. Now, I'm not trying to rile people up or get people, in open revolt or something. I am simply stating a fact, and this is news that has to come out. New York State has to know that we know what you're doing, New York State. We see you, and you're not going to do this quietly like you think you've been doing it quietly. So far, all the confiscations that I know of, that I'm familiar with, are taking place by state police. Other agencies, I know of one agency that was requested to do it, and they refused to do it, so the state police ended up doing that confiscation. But I'm going to pass this off now to George Curbelo, the leader of the New York Revolution Group, that is anything but revolutionary. They are a pro-Constitution, pro-Second Amendment, non-violent group. George is a great guy and much better spoken than me. Please, this is going to be a long video probably, but it's important. Stick with this. Let's listen to what George has to say.
Hey folks, this is George Curbelo from the New York Revolution Group. As Van Prepper already mentioned to you, gun confiscation has begun in New York State. I posted on our 3%er page several weeks back that gun confiscation would not start with SWAT teams and MRAPs rolling down the street and going from door to door, that they would in fact be picking off one person at a time, and it would be a way for them not only to begin the enforcement of an unconstitutional law, but it would also enable them to see the response that New York citizens and patriots across the country would have to gun confiscation here in New York. I want to tell you a story of a meeting that I had with our Delaware County Sheriff. I, for a couple of weeks, actually kept this story under wraps, so not to speak and name the Delaware County Sheriff as being my source for this story. But he actually came to our Constitutional Awareness Bash on July 5th and made it public. So I feel a lot more comfortable mentioning that he is in fact our source for this information. I went to speak to him about the event that we were having on July 5th to confirm the fact that he would actually be there and let him know who all the other speakers were. And after an extended conversation with him, probably about 45 minutes of sitting in his office, he asked me if I knew about the two messes that happened in Delaware County. And I wasn't quite sure what he was talking about, so I just asked him. I said, what are you talking about? And he said, well, Judge Becker recused himself from one of the cases, but signed off on another, and paused. Immediately it came to my head that he was talking about gun confiscation, and I asked him, I said, are you talking about gun confiscation? And he said, yes. And I asked him if it was under the New York Unsafe Act, and he said yes. And I asked him for some more detail on it, and he said to me, this is what he gave me, that there was a couple that were having some marital problems, and she sought out counseling to help wrap her mind around her marital issues. Most of us at one point or another have had some form of distress in our relationship, and sitting down and talking with somebody is often a good solution in terms of wrapping our minds around means to deal with those issues. Well, she went to the counselor, and the counselor reported her. I'll say it again. The counselor reported her. And Judge Becker signed off on a gun confiscation, and it went to the county sheriff's office, and much to my delight, they refused to do the confiscation. It went to the New York State Police. The guns were confiscated, and now there is a court hearing coming up. I will get additional details on that and make that public via Van Prepper's page here, or Van Prepper's videos, and make sure that all of you are aware of that. It is necessary for each one of us to remain as vigilant as possible and keep a pulse on our local communities, and any form of confiscation under the New York Unsafe Act needs to be made public. It needs to go on Facebook. It needs to be sent to Van Prepper. It needs to be sent to us. NYR is working with a lawyer presently that's collecting all of the information on the different types of confiscations that are going on across New York State. Get that information to us, and we will get that to that lawyer, and we can move forward from there. With that information, I'm asking all of you across the state, if you know of any court dates that are coming up for any of these confiscations, please make those public. We need to gather at those courthouses in a peaceful manner and let them know that we are watching, that we are very aware of what they're doing, and that we are not going to sit by idly. We are not going to continue to permit them to degrade our freedoms. And what we will do is that we will bring as many freedom-loving Americans to all of those courthouses, to every court date that will be available. We will make this available to all of the groups that we are affiliated with across the state and across the country and we will muster as many people as we can to let you know that we are unhappy with the application and enforcement of unconstitutional law. Van, I want to thank you for permitting me to get this message out. I hope that we can bring enough people together working as one in as peaceful as of a manner as we can, so that we can make a change in the direction that New York State is taking. George Cabello, New York Revolution, signing out.
Folks, when they talk about reasonable restrictions, responsible gun owners, blah, 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 we're not trying to take your guns. Bull crud. That is exactly what they're trying to do. When you hear registration, you better darn sure wake up. All you people that are on the fence or don't think the SAFE Act affects you, you better darn sure wake up and understand that this does affect you. If you've got anything in your past at all, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, they have a legal means then, if they know you're a gun owner at all, to come to your house and take everything you've got. That is the only justification they need, and that is the end goal of this. Registration always leads to confiscation. Please share, like, subscribe, do anything. Get this word out on Facebook, on any news sites you can find, all over YouTube. Let's get this information out there, because New York State needs to know, and the gun grabbers all across the country need to know that we know what they're up to, and we are not going to sit idly by and take this and let them do this behind closed doors or in the dark, in the quiet of night, and think that we don't know about it. I'm Van Prepper. Thank you guys very much for bearing with me on this. As always, happy shooting, everybody.